As the agenda for tonight's school board meeting does not include a time for public comment, I'm going to provide you with what I intended to say here. The Dublin School Board Policy, Section 1220, Employment of the Superintendent begins, "The Board of Education vests the primary responsibility for administration of this district in the Superintendent of Schools. The appointment of that officer is, therefore, one of the most important functions the board can perform." Section 0123 Code of Ethics, Item A. Remember that my first and greatest concern must be the educational welfare of all students attending the public schools. Item H. Render all decisions based on the available facts and my independent judgment rather than succumbing to the influence of individuals or special interest groups. Item L. Support the employment of staff members based on qualifications and not as a result of influence. At the end of the workday on Friday of a holiday weekend, after a very brief search period, the Dublin School Board announced they would be voting for a superintendent candidate to replace Dr. Hoadley, who stepped back from the job on March 8th. Despite their claims of transparency and community involvement, their choice appears to have been a foregone conclusion, with little to no opportunity for any significant involvement from the community. The school board president, Chris Valentine, has used classic sales tactics to trick the parents of the district into believing that this decision is urgent and taking the time to search for the best candidate is not possible. This is blatantly false. In his own words, the interim superintendent, Dr. Wade Lucas, is one of the most experienced educators in Central Ohio. Dr. Lucas previously served as superintendent of 3 different districts, most recently in Olentangy schools. With this experience, Dublin is well positioned to accept applications from all qualified candidates and fully vet final candidates for the job. Valentine insists we must remain on a responsibly focused schedule, and I fully agree. However, a responsible schedule provides time to find and vet the best candidates, not the fastest candidates. With Dr. Lucas at the helm, we are well positioned to succeed during the next school year and take the time to ensure Dr. Hoadley's replacement will be the right person to continue Dublin's trajectory as one of the best districts in the state. If the current candidate is the best option, and I do not believe he is, have no doubt he will continue to be interested in this highly sought-after position next year. Valentine claims will be transparent through the process and will involve parents, staff, and the community. But transparency never materialized. The public has been made aware of the board's intention to approve a candidate 3 days prior to their vote for his approval. Again, the Friday before a holiday weekend. His claims on March 22nd that this will be the largest community and staff search process Dublin has had is quite simply not backed up by the facts. It would be impossible to fulfill that promise on the tight timeline the board has imposed on itself. Dr. Marshausen is a master of saying what people want to hear while doing little to resolve obvious problems in his district when brought to his attention. A commonly used phrase, "we can and we must do better," is frequently used to placate parents, who he will later refer to as just a couple of angry parents, while doing little or nothing to address their concerns. As a top-performing district, Dublin can and must do better than to speed through the superintendent hiring process, and can and must do better than Dr. John Marshausen. To act in the best interest of Dublin students, we must act responsibly and take an adequate amount of time to find the best candidate for the job, while benefiting from our experienced and qualified interim superintendent. The school board's desire to speed through what is the most important decision a school board can make is reckless and irresponsible. Dr. Marshausen was not as good as Dr. Hoadley in 2013, and there's no reason to believe he is as good today. Why would we take a step backwards? Why would we settle for an inferior candidate? We can and we must do better. I will leave you again with the following excerpts from Dublin School Board Policy. Code of Ethics, Item L. Support the employment of staff members based on qualifications and not as a result of influence. Section 1220, Employment of the Superintendent. The Board of Education vests the primary responsibility for administration of this district in the Superintendent of Schools. The appointment of that officer is, therefore, one of the most important functions the board can perform. One of the most important functions the board can perform. It is critical that an adequate amount of time be put into this process. Thank you for your time.